Hari Om. Let us chant from verses 6 to 15 of chapter 8. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam yajatyante kalevaram tam tame vaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha tasma sadeshu kaleshu manusmara yudhya cha Mayatpitamano buddhihi mame vaishyasya samshayaha abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanya paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan Kavim Puranamanushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredhyaha Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat Prayana Kale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto yoga balena chaifa bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadhyatayo vitaragaha Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshye sarvadvarani samyamya manohridi nirudhya cha murdhyadhayatmana pranam astito yogadharanam Omityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yaprayati Tajandeham Sayati Paramam Gatim Ananyacheta Satatam Yo Mam Smarati Nityashaha Tasyaham Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha Mamupetya Punarjanmaha Dukkhalayama Shashvatam Napnuvanti Mahatmanaha Samsiddhim Paramam Gataha.
Ahanau Bhunaktu Ahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavahai Om Shanti. In verse number 9, some of the descriptive terms are used. In verse number 9, some terms for God, for Brahman is used. And those terms are used, meant for Nididhyasana contemplation, where you can sit and contemplate on these terms. He who meditates on so and so, so and so, so and so, he stops. If you read the verse carefully, he says, he who meditates on the omniscient, ancient, all ruler, minuter than the minute, supporter of all, of inconceivable form, effulgent as the sun, beyond darkness, he who meditates. What happens? That is continued in the next verse. So you have to connect it and read it like he who meditates on this. Meditates here is contemplation. Who is able to contemplate on this? Meditation, contemplation, all one and the same in this context. And most of the time in Vedantic literature, when they talk about meditation, it means contemplation. They don't talk about the matra, amatra, sitting with the eyes closed meditation. Sound silence, that's not that meditation they are not talking about. So wherever the word meditation is used and these kind of words are there, you understand that it is meant for nididhyasana, contemplation. So it is meant for contemplation. Now, what is it that he is saying here? First one, kavim, ancient. Kavi literally means seer, poet. Kavi literally means poet. Poet means the seer. What do they see? What others cannot see, they see. What others cannot see, they see. That's why they are called seers. Poets in the sense, not the one who writes poetry, not that. A poet means a seer. What is it that they can see and what is it that we don't see? Elsewhere in the beginning chapters, Krishna says, I know the past, I know the present, I know the future. You don't know anything, he says. I know the past, I know the present, I know the future. In that sense, it is Kavihi, all-knowing. So Kavihi means poet, poet means all-knowing. All-knowing means the past, the present, the future. And the consciousness that is enlivening the past, enlivening the present, which will enliven the future, knows everything. So in that sense, you have to understand it as Kavihi. Second is Puranam, ancient. And what is Puranam, ancient means? Not the oldest, it means beyond time. Beyond time means one who is never created. That is Purana, ancient. All of us are created. Puranam means the one who is never created. Or you can say it as the creator of everyone, but the one himself is uncreated. The one oneself is the one oneself that is uncreated is Puranam. Puranam means literally, if you translate Puranam, which is not the meaning here, the literal meaning is ancient. Ancient means, the English word ancient, you will say very old. It's not very old. Ancient means beyond time. It means all our experiences are bound by time. This is something beyond time. So, in contemplation, what are you supposed to do? You understand this. All your experiences are bound by time. This is Puranam, ancient. The third one, Anushasitaram. The word Anu means atom, small. Here the word Anu means Shastra. Anushasitaram. One who governs everything by the law. So, he is the lawmaker, he is the lawgiver, and also the result giver according to the law. That is Anushasitaram. First he is the law. First he is the lawgiver. He is the lawgiver. You can say lawmaker also. He is the lawgiver, he is the lawmaker. Any word you can use, doesn't matter. But there is a law and there are laws and there is somebody who manages those laws. So Anushasitaram means one who governs and makes sure that everything is guided by the law. And when we talk about the law, obviously we are meaning, what law we are meaning here? The law of karma. That's very clear. When we talk about law, we are talking about the law of karma. The law of karma being the subtlest, down the line, all other laws are also included. The physical laws, the chemical laws, the biological laws, there are so many laws, and then the psychological laws, and then the law of karma. So everything in life is governed by law. Anushasitaram means one who makes sure that everything that you do is bound by that law, is governed by that law. Everything you do means every thought that you entertain, every word that you speak, every action that you do is governed by the law. In that sense, it is Anushasitaram. The moment you understand there is this Anushasitaram, what happens? What happens? You'll be very responsible. You'll become very responsible in life. Human beings don't like laws, no sir. We all want to be free, no? Laws, we don't, who wants laws? We all want to be free. The question is, freedom is governed by laws. Take it or leave it, doesn't make any difference. The freedom is not absolute freedom. Freedom is governed by laws. Freedom means doesn't have the freedom to do what you like. What you feel like doing, you will do. That's not freedom. That is being merely impulsive. That's not freedom. What you feel like doing, don't I have the freedom to do what I feel like doing? That is not freedom. That is called being very impulsive. Then what is freedom? Freedom is recognizing the law and guiding your life according to that law. That freedom. Again, I repeat, freedom means recognizing the law and making sure that your life is guided by those laws. Anushasitaram. Very beautiful word for contemplation. All this, any one word you can take and you can sit with it for hours together. And we are not going to sit for hours together. We will sit for a few minutes with each and every word. That's all. Whenever we grow, we can sit with these words. What is the law? The law is that which functions irrespective of whether you know it or not. Law is that which functions irrespective of whether you understand it or not. Whether you understand it or not, Whether you know it is there or not, it makes no difference to the law. The law functions. Therefore, it is very important for a human being to know the law. To know the law, obey the law, and understand the law. Knowing the law only to find the loopholes and break it. You know the law for what? So that you can find the loopholes. Why do you find the loopholes? To break the law. So you know the law. Second is knowing the law, you will obey the law. Third one is understand. You know, you obey, you understand. Anushasitaram says, you obey it, he will make sure that the benefits reaches you accordingly. That is Anushasitaram. You obey the law. Wherever anybody obeys the law, benefits will reach them accordingly. But I don't even know there are laws. What do I do? This ignorance nobody can claim because everybody knows the law. Because these laws are known to everybody. We may pretend that we don't know. We may pretend that we don't know. We may say it is not practical. We may say it may not work, but nobody can claim ignorance. Why? It's very simple. What is the law? We have seen this law. We have seen the basis. What you don't want others to do to you, you don't do it to another. Full stop. What you don't want others to do to you, you don't do. Simple example. Imagine supposing there is a species above human beings. Imagine that. If there are species above human beings, and suddenly that species found out human beings can make the best pets. Suddenly they found out human beings can be made the best pets. So what will they come and do? Silesh, they will take you. Yeah. Bhavana may say thank you, but I'm waiting for that to happen. Yeah. She may say that, but that species will come and take you. They will chain you. Take you for a morning walk, take you for an evening walk. All vaccinations will be done. Properly it will be done. Food will be provided on time. Would you like it? Would you still like that life? If you don't like that life, you should not do it to others. That's all. The rule of dharma, the rule of law of karma is very, very, very simple and straightforward. But the human mind refuses to accept it because we say, no, but we need entertainment. No. I'm taking care of them. No. Who takes care of them in the jungles? Who takes care of them? They live by themselves. Human mind always try to break the law, twist the law, turn the law to suit oneself. Anushasitaram says, how much ever you think you are smart, how much ever you think you are brilliant, make sure one thing will happen. What? The karma phala will come. The karma phala come. That's why he's called karma phala dhata. Karma phala dhata means making sure that the result comes to you. And he's so smart that he will make sure that the karma phala comes to you very specifically. Error kadayadanga. Error, no scope of error at all. Bulk result எல்லாம் கிடையாது இல்லையா? Bulk posting, bulk SMS எல்லாம் கிடையாது. Specifically it will come. So precise it is. You understand this? What a thought for contemplation. Anusasitaram. Beautiful for contemplation. Then comes subtler than anoraniyam. Subtler than atom. Subtler than atom means that which is not available for any kind of perception and understanding. That is subtler than the atom. Again I repeat. What is subtler than atom? Atom is the subtlest. Subtler than that means not available for any type of perception. Though God is given a symbolic form, like the national flag to the country. We have seen that example any number of times. Like the national flag to the country, the national flag is symbolic. The physical form of the national flag represents the subtle value of national consciousness. Correct? The physical form of the flag represents the subtler. So the physical form is used to represent the subtler. What is the subtler? The national consciousness is the subtler. In order to bring about that, a physical form is used. So what they do? Everything is symbolized as God. Everything is symbolized as God. Why everything is symbolized as God? Why everything is symbolized as God? Because in reality, there is only God. Since in reality, there is only God and there is no other than God, everything is symbolized as God. So when they say subtler than atom, meaning it is beyond form, beyond any form of conception. Sarvasya dhataram. Sarvasya dhataram means one who is the substratum, the supporter of the entire creation. Supporter of the entire creation. Supporter of the creation means the cause, the material. It is the cause, it is the material. And all this you can't ask, what is all this, sir? What is the cause? What is the material? And all, because we have studied all that already. So it is the cause, it is the material. In that sense, it is sarvasya adharam. The cause for all ornaments is gold. The material for all ornaments is gold, and all ornaments are supported by gold. Sarvasya adharam. Take gold and ornaments. That example, you will understand what is sarvasya adharam. The gold is the material for all ornaments. The gold is the supporter of all ornaments. In fact, those ornaments are nothing but gold. In fact, those ornaments are nothing but gold. In that sense, it is sarvasya adharam. The sarvasya adharam is the reference. All these words have references in various Upanishads. All these words are taken from various Upanishads. And the Sarvasya Adharam has a very detailed elaboration in Chandogya. One of the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, talks about this, elaborates a little bit on this Adharam. Sarvasya Adharam. It will talk about it as Vishwadharam. Vishwa Adharam. And all the Sahasranama also have names like this, no? All the shlokas also have names like Vishwa, Vishwadharam, Vishwadharam. And then comes Achintya Rupam. Achintya Rupam means what? A form that cannot be thought about. Rupam means form. Chinta means thinking. Achintya means a form that cannot be thought of. How can there be a form that you cannot think of? It means it is incomprehensible. Another poetic way of saying it is incomprehensible. Beautiful are these words describing Brahman. It is incomprehensible. How to go on saying it is incomprehensible, we'll fall off to sleep after a while. So what they do, they give very many words where you have to sit and decode a little bit. You sit and decode a little bit of knowledge comes, little bit of knowledge. And so you gather knowledge brick by brick by brick. So all these words helps you to gather knowledge brick by brick by brick. So all these are attributes of Brahman, sir. Anyway, Brahman we don't know. So why bother about these verses? Shankar, choice la utradinga in the verse Allah. Because I know people leave these verses in choice la utradinga. Because these verses, anyway, they are Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram, all that and all is it's okay. All that we will see later. First let us worry about how to handle our problems. You go on handling your problems, and the way that you handle your problems, you create more problems. Because we do not know how to handle the problem. Yeah. The way you handle the problem, you end up creating more problem. And what is the right way to handle? Ignore that. What is the proper way to handle the problem? Ignore that. And if you have to ignore that, your mind must be preoccupied with something else. Then only you can ignore that. For you to ignore something, you need to be occupied with something else. Then only you can ignore. You have a headache. I'm not having a headache. I'm just giving an example. Yeah. Why Sunday morning say you have a headache? I'll say I have a headache. Because class itself is a headache. Adik mele why extra headache? So I have a headache. I can ignore that headache if my focus is on something different. So if my focus is on something different, if I'm occupied with something else, I can ignore. What is it that I have to ignore? Ignore those pinpricks. Ignore those pinpricks of life. And don't use philosophy to keep handling your pinpricks of life. That's a very limited usage. I won't say wrong usage. Of course, it is wrong usage only, because when you are using it limitedly, it is wrong usage only. Why? Because it ought to take you to the higher level. And what is it that takes you to the higher level? Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram, subtler than the subtler, Sarvasya Adharam, Achintya Rupam. We are discussing Achintya Rupam. What is Achintya Rupam? Rupam means form. Achintya means inconceivable form. How can you have an inconceivable form? It means what? It is incomprehensible. The one beyond the thoughts. The one who cannot be objectified by the mind. Achintya Rupam means one who cannot be objectified by the mind. Why? We know the basics. Yeah. I'm saying we know the basics. What is the basics? Mind can visualize only the attributes. For mind to know anything, it should have a form, it should have an attributes. Mind can conceive of anything that has a form and has some attributes to it. Correct? That's why even our gods also have a form and some attributes. Why? Mind as an instrument is meant to study only the attributes. Mind as an instrument is designed only to study the attributes. And using that mind, you cannot study. Using that mind, you cannot study God. Therefore, what do you understand? The mind cannot function in the field where attributes are not there. Achintya Rupam tells you that. Mind cannot function in an area where attributes are not there. Shankaracharya gives a different example to explain Achintya Rupam, because in those contexts, now those examples makes no relevance today. So we can give modern day examples. What is it? The fastest bullet train cannot go on ocean. Correct? The fastest train cannot take you on ocean. The best ship in the ocean cannot take you on the rails. Are you able to follow? Very simple it is. Achintya Rupam. It means it has a specific function. Why? Ships are not meant to go on the land. The cars, the trains are not meant to go in the ocean, water. But imagine one, it can fly, it can be a train, it can go on ocean also, sir. So many things we have discovered. Ram Subramanian will say you are wrong, sir. Because people think we are very dumb. No, we don't know anything, isn't it? Because philosophers are always seen as very poor souls. They don't know anything of what is happening in the world. Mind is not meant for a field which is beyond attributes. Mind is not designed to operate in the field which is beyond attributes. God is something where no instruments can function. No instrument can reach. That is why you cannot put, sometimes they do that, no? Somebody will claim I am a wise man yogi, and that wise man yogi will be put in a chamber, and so many things will be sticking on his body all over, and then they will measure the waves. Wow. This man is a yogi. Krishna will laugh at that experiment. Why? Because you are trying to drive the car in an ocean. It may go on for a few meters, it will go. Don't worry. It will go for a few meters, definitely. Ultimately, what will happen? It will drown. Meaning, it cannot take you. So, what is Achintya Rupam? Why God is defined as Achintya Rupam? Because mind cannot reach there, incomprehensible. Why? Because mind is not meant for a field which is beyond attributes. Instruments are not meant for a field beyond attributes. That's why you can have the most advanced technological instrument in terms of microscope or telescope. Both are useless when it comes to God. Why? Because it's a specific area of function where instruments cannot reach Achintya Rupam. You understand that? There is a inspiration. When you read these kind of words and understand these words, and whenever you repeat those words, yeah, it gives you some awakening. And why God is called Achintya Rupam, Brahman is called Achintya Rupam? Because this we know. God cannot be objectified. Why? God being the very subject of everything, God being the very subject cannot be objectified. And this original subject is Achintya Rupa. What is the form of that original subject? What is the form of that original subject? You only have to say, I don't know. And the saying, I don't know, is very profound. So when you say, what is this Achintya Rupam? You have to say, I don't know. And the saying, I don't know, is very profound, because when you say, I don't know, paradoxically, something you come to know. When you say, I don't know, paradoxically, what happens? You don't remain in ignorance when you say, I don't know. When you say, I don't know, paradoxically, something happens in you that you become extraordinarily wise. And how to make a person extraordinarily wise, these kind of attributes are very helpful. Aditya Varnam, last one. Aditya Varnam means beyond darkness. Beyond darkness. Effulgent. Aditya means sun. Varnam means effulgent. Effulgent as the sun. And we saw that yesterday also. Remember that? Why they give the example of the effulgent of the sun again and again and again? Why they give that?
Everything is revealed at once.
You know everything. The sunlight reveals. There are so many kinds of knowledges. There are so many kinds of seeing things, and sunlight reveals it very differently. How does sunlight reveal anything? It reveals everything at once. Swayam prakashate, as the sunlight. The sunlight is beautiful. Why? Because as it reveals itself, it reveals everything around. That's sunlight. How do I know that I have reached the truth? Maitreyi asked Yajnavalkya. And Yajnavalkya answers it by a different question. By what light the sunlight is seen, O Maitreyi? By what light the sunlight is seen? Swayam prakashate, its own light. Its own light. Not only it lights itself completely, it lights everything around. Aditya Varna. And then the last one is Tamasa Parastat. So what is Aditya Varnam? The light that reveals everything. You know that you know everything. You know that you know everything. Mundaka Upanishad. What is that one knowing by which I know everything? Torchlight vechitadna, you can never know everything. If you have to know everything, you need to come to the sunlight. It means what? In order to come to the sunlight, you have to understand the limitations of the torchlight and let it go. Torchlight is a worldly knowledge. Torchlight refers to the worldly knowledge. No doubt they reveal something about the world. No doubt, no doubt they are giving you some knowledge, but ultimately they cannot teach you anything. Therefore, the ultimate knowledge. What is that knowing by which you know everything. How can you know everything? It is impossible to know everything, no? But then the sunlight makes it possible for you to know everything. How can I know everything, sir? Of course, in darkness, you can never know everything. Even if you know little bit, that little bit is also not very clear. That is darkness, because in darkness, all the knowledges is enveloped by darkness. And the enveloping darkness is much, much more than whatsoever you know. That is worldly knowledges. Here is the knowledge which is like the sunlight. What is like the sunlight? The sunlight reveals everything at once. You know everything. Aditya Varnam. And this is, and to develop this is the first prayer. To develop this understanding, to develop this vision, to develop this understanding is the first prayer. The first prayer that is taught to the human being is Gayatri Mantra. At the age of 6, 7, the first prayer will be taught. Till that time, you just have to leave the child to grow. Yeah. I have a 3-year-old child, sir. Bhagavad Gita class, can you do? I say, I don't know how to conduct a Bhagavad Gita class for 78-year-old. I am not knowing how to conduct a Bhagavad Gita class. How to conduct a Bhagavad Gita class for a 3-year-old? If it is taught in the schools only, it is very good, no, sir. How can you teach it in the school? It is like driving car in the ocean. How can you teach that? Anyway, people have their own imaginary solutions to problems, no? What is one of the imaginary solutions to the problem? If this is taught in the schools, all problems will be solved. Nothing will get solved. In fact, it will get worse only. Why? Because it is like trying to drive a ship on the land. How can you drive the ship? Sailing, no? Ship, you don't say drive, isn't it? How can you sail a ship on the land? Tamasa Parastat. Sorry, Aditya Varnam we are doing. Aditya Varnam means a knowledge by which you know everything. Is there a knowledge like that at all? Yes, sunlight. And the first prayer that is taught to the child is Gayatri. What is that Gayatri says? Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Dhi means buddhi. The Sanskrit word Dhi means buddhi, the intellect. So what is the prayer? Let my intellect be sharp and brilliant as the sun. Why? Because the sunlight reveals everything at once. There is no gradually revealing. Bit by bit. When sunlight comes, the whole thing is revealed at once. Tamasa Parastat. Tamasa Parastat means beyond darkness, unaffected by darkness. What is unaffected by darkness means? There is no possibility of darkness at all. And darkness here refers to ignorance. Darkness is always, light is symbolic of knowledge. Darkness is symbolic of ignorance. Tamaso ma jyotir damaya. Upanishad, the prayer. Lead me from darkness to light is the prayer. Why? Because there is a discomfort in darkness. There is a discomfort in darkness. There is a comfort in light. Tamasa Parastat, meaning beyond ignorance. Beyond ignorance means what? There was never a time where consciousness will say, I didn't know. It knows. Kavihi, it's all knowing. No. Since it is all knowing, it is beyond ignorance. The terrestrial world is bound to be in ignorance. How much ever knowledge you gain in the terrestrial world, all the knowledges of the terrestrial world is covered by ignorance. How much ever wise the person becomes is covered by ignorance. What is the ignorance? What is ignorance? You have to define ignorance. What is ignorance? That which is not there, you see. That which is there, you don't see. What is ignorance? That which is not there, you see. That which is there, you don't see. That is darkness. That is ignorance. Ignorance means seeing that which is not there. Ignorance means not able to see that which is there. What is there? Brahman is there, you don't see. What is not there? What is not there? Misery, sorrow, limitations, all that is not there. There is no misery, there is no sorrow, there is no limitations, there is no fear, there is no worry, there is no anxiety. All that is not there. But you see only this. You see only this. Tamasa parastat means beyond this, beyond darkness. One who meditates on these attributes and he stops the verse halfway. What happens to him? He doesn't continue. That is continued in verse number 10. So, what all a person does in verse number 9, if you read the verse again, now we will read the verse, not the Sanskrit one, the English one. Yeah. Venkat, English one. He who meditates on the omniscient, the ancient, all-ruler, minuter than the minute, supporter of all, of inconceivable form, effulgent as the sun, beyond darkness, halfway the verse is left. He is not concluding. And the conclusion happens in verse 10. Now we will read verse 10. Verse 10 padiko.
Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purushamupaiti divyam.
At the time of death, with steady mind and devotion, united by the power of yoga, and only by fixing the prana, life breath, perfectly in the middle of the two eyebrows, he reaches the supreme resplendent being. He who does all that, continuing now, What is this verse now? At the time of death, with steady mind and devotion, united by the power of yoga, and only by fixing the prana, life breath, perfectly in the middle of the two eyebrows, he reaches the supreme resplendent being. So what is he talking about here? He's continuing from where he left. He who meditates in his lifetime on all those, connected. He who is contemplative and meditating on those in lifetime, what? All that is said in the previous verse. At the time of death, for that person, at the time of death. Not for anybody, yeah? Not for anybody at the time of death. So people take this verse conveniently out of context and they think anybody at the time of death, all that you have to do is what? Or at the time of death only you have to worry. No, sir. It means for lifetime you can live however you want to. So at the time of death, all that you have to do is what? Krishna, 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 you say that is enough. Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, you say it is enough. At the time of death, you will not be, look at the verse here. He is saying if you have done all this at the time of death, you will be so conscious of those contemplative thoughts that will take you to the right birth where your growth continues. You will die with an alertness, with an awareness of these. What is the awareness, alertness with which you will die? Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram, all that you will remember. He who remembers all this at the time of death with steady mind and devotion. So at the time of, first we will discuss Prayana Kale. As I said when we started this 8th chapter, we have to finish this 8th chapter very fast. Every week Prayana Kale is coming, isn't it? Prayana Kale. What is this Prayana Kale? Somebody don't want this Prayana to happen, it happens. Somebody wants it to happen and it is not. And it is not happening. Yeah. For some, we also want it to happen, it doesn't happen. For some, we don't want it to happen and it happens. So this Prayana Kale is something beyond our. Who's deciding that Prayana Kale? God only knows. Maybe he's only deciding. So Prayana Kale, at the time of death, he who means who's that who? Who's that he who? Connected to the previous verse. So while he is alive, when a person who has done all that while he is alive, Prayana Kale, what happens at the time of death? The mind will be steady. Achalam. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Arjuna said in the 3rd chapter, he says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Krishna, you, because before that, Krishna himself said in chapter 3, mind is Astira and Chanchala. And Arjuna picks up from there, he picks it up and says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. That Chanchala mana becomes Achala. The Chanchala mana becomes Achala. When? At the time of death. If it is Achala at the time of death, means it is Achala now. Then only it can be Achala at the time of death. The Chanchala mind cannot suddenly become Achala at the time of death and all. It won't happen. Or even if somebody is remembering, out of fear, they may remember. What happened? They may remember. Not out of devotion and achalena. Bhaktya achalena. Bhaktya achalena. Bhaktya means with devotion. Bhaktya means with devotion. What is the devotion? What is devotion? Constant remembrance. Devotion means a constant remembrance. That is devotion. Love means constant remembrance. Bhakti means constant remembrance. Both are one and the same. Constant remembrance. Somebody says, I love you, but I think of you only once in a while. Na? Would you call that as love? When you say, do you love me, means what are you asking actually? Are you constantly thinking about me? நான் ஞாபகத்தில் இருக்கிறேனா இல்லையா? Correct? When the husband asks the wife or the wife asks the husband, when the boyfriend asks the girlfriend or the girlfriend asks the boyfriend, what are they asking for? Am I remembered by you at all? At all times. So love, bhakti is all one and the same. What is it? Constant remembrance. And love is at your level and something lower. Bhakti is towards the higher. But both are same. What? Constant remembrance. So with mind, ananya bhakti. Bhaktya yuktaha. Yuktaha means one who is united by bhakti. Constant remembrance. And what is constant remembrance? Intense love. Actually, love itself means intense. You can't have, you can't have, yeah. Occasional love is not love, no. Occasionally I love, no, you don't call it. So love itself means intense. Bhakti itself means intense. And what is intensity? Constant remembrance. But sir, if I constantly remember, I won't be able to do so many things, no? Krishna will turn back and say, what are you talking? You are doing that already, no? Krishna says, what are you talking? You are doing that already. The parent attached to their children, whatsoever they do, one part of them is constantly remembering the child, no? Correct? So it's not that you don't know how to do it. You are doing it already. Only thing is you are doing it in the wrong area. That's all. Vedanta comes and says, practice it in the right area. But sir, if I constantly keep thinking of that, then how will I be able to do other things? You are doing it already. In so many areas, you are doing it already. Here, what is he saying? Bhaktya yuktaha. Yuktaha means one who practices yoga during lifetime. Yuktaha means one who practices yoga in lifetime, not at the time of death alone. If you have done this during your lifetime, it comes and helps you at the time of death. Yoga balena chaiva. Yoga balena cha eva. He has got the strength of abhyasa. Bala comes from, previously he spoke about abhyasa, no? Few verses back he spoke about abhyasa. And initial stages also he spoke about abhyasa a lot. And bhalam always comes through abhyasa. Yoga bhalena. The strength that you get out of the constant practice of yoga. Yoga bhalena chaiva. Pranam aveshya. Bruvoho madhye. Samyak. This is again classic poetry. What is it? Pranam aveshya. Pranam aveshya means he can let go of prana. It's not that prana is leaving and he's tightly holding on to it. Yeah, prana is going. And this man doesn't want prana to go. And it is going by itself forcefully. Pranam aveshya. What is pranam aveshya here? This man lets go of prana. This man can let go of prana. Let go of prana means, understand, it's classic poetry. Don't take it literally and all. So suddenly he will decide to stop breathing. Huh? Don't take it so literally and all like that. What it means is he can let go and move on. Pranam aveshya. He can let go. What is the most valuable thing that you can't let go? Your life. Correct? What is of utmost importance to you? Your life. And that this person let go. He can let go. Pranam aveshya madhye bruvoho samyak. Keeping the pranas properly between the two eyebrows. D, he's trying. He's closing. Somehow he's trying to bring everything and put it here. Yeah. What it means is, it's a symbolic act, not a literal act. That's not how death. It's a symbolic act. What is that symbolic act? He can bring it up and he can let go. Why he can let go? Yoga balena. He can let go of it because the abhyasa of yoga has given him the strength. What is that strength? That strength is telling him very clearly what? Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. Where? Bhagavad Gita only. Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. He knows that very clearly. Having known this very clearly, prayana kale, at the time of death, he can let go. And he attains. Such a person attains. What does he attain? Param Purusham Divyam. He reached that Param Purusham Divyam. And what is Param Purusham Divyam means? The Supreme Lord. One attains the divine Supreme Lord. Indicators of what spiritual practices does to you. Manasa chalena. This manas, the mind becomes achala. This undistracted mind is what we talk about, a very important necessary prerequisite for meditation. It is not that in meditation you make the mind to focus. The mind that doesn't move because of the yoga bala, that mind is directed to meditation. It is not that the mind is moving all over the place and you practice meditation to bring it a focus. The mind that is focused already because of yoga bala. That's how we have to understand. The mind that is focused already because of yoga bala practices meditation. Manasa chalena. And what brings about this chanchalam hi manat Krishna to achala? Constant practice. What is the constant practice? The constant practice of karma yoga. The constant practice of karma yoga brings a steadiness to the mind. The mind that is unsteady becomes steady by the practice of karma yoga. Karma yoga means karma bhakti combined, because action and attitude goes, karma means action, bhakti means attitude. So action and attitude always goes together. Even though for understanding purposes, we talk about it as though they are separate, for all practical purposes, you understand what action and attitude goes together. This action and attitude going together is practice of karma yoga. And this practice of karma yoga brings about the mind that is steady. And nowadays, we don't use the word karma yoga. Instead of using the word karma yoga, we started using the word bhakti yoga a lot. Mind steady chanting பண்ணணும், ஸ்லோகா சொல்லணும், chanting பண்ணணும். You need to go from temple to temple. Again, it means that it is not that it is not opposite of karma. What it means is what? This kind of bhakti also involves certain karmas. Karmas involves the right attitude. These kind of bhakti also involves karma. Bhaktya yuktaha. Bhaktya yuktaha means one who is united by bhakti. And this bhaktya yuktaha is because of yoga bhala. And this yoga bhala is because of the proper use of, the proper practice of karma yoga. And that person who has practiced karma yoga properly develops the mind that is achalena, and that achalena he will be thinking about achintya rupam, aditya varnam, tamasa parastat, etc. at the time of death. And that person who is remembering all this at the time of death, endowed with all these qualities, one attains that Supreme Lord. That's how we have to read. One attains that Supreme, one attains that Paramam Purusham. So, what we are interested here is Yoga Bala and Manasa Chalena. That's what we are interested here. This Yoga Bala brings about Bala in every aspect of your life, to an extent where you can let go of prana also. That is the strength, Yoga Bala. This yoga brings about the Bala. Bala means strength. Opposite of strength is weakness. What is weakness? A fear, an insecurity is weakness. What is weakness? The fear, the insecurity is weakness. What is Balam? Strength. No fear, no insecurity. Remember that. Shankar, Kulattur, Purida. Insecurity, fear is weakness. Knowledge gives you strength. The yoga, the Vedantic knowledge gives you strength. What is that strength? It takes away the fears, it takes away the insecurity. It takes away the fear, it takes away the insecurity. What is the fear? What will happen to me? What is insecurity? Ignorance. That is insecurity. Insecurity about doing the action, insecurity about the result of the action. Insecure. Why? Because you don't know. You don't know. Therefore, what do you understand here? This yoga bala brings about a strength. This yoga bala brings about a strength. What is that strength? The fear goes out. The insecurity goes out. You become a fearless, bold person. You become fearless. You become bold. The indicator that you have become fearless, bold is the mind doesn't be in chanchala. You can't simply close your eyes and think of one thing and keep the mind focused and all. That's what people are trying. It won't work. To bring about the mind to achala, you need to overcome your fears and insecurities. So knowledge, yoga bala takes care of all that. As a result of all these practices, what happens to that person? Because he's thinking about the Lord constantly, he's thinking about God constantly, he attains that. He becomes that. As you think, so you become. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. As you think, so you become. Meaning, since you are thinking about it constantly, you become that. And what is the nature of that? Again, another adjective is given. What is the nature of that which you will attain? Param, Purusham, Divyam. Purusha means the indweller. Purusha means the indweller. Param means the supreme, because there are two indwellers. One is the Jiva, another is the Brahman, the Paramatma and Jivatma. What is Purusham here refers to? The Paramatma. That's why it's called Param Purusham. Param Purusham. What is Param Purusham? Not Jivatma, it is Paramatma. And what is the nature of that? Divyam. What is the nature of that? Divyam. And Divyam, we know. What is meant by Divyam? Divyam means Swayam Prakashate. Effulgent means Swayam Prakashate. Swayam Prakashate means it doesn't need anything else to know it. All knowing is dependent on an instrument to know that. Only with the use of that respective instrument, you can know that. If that instrument isn't there, you can never know that. Correct? All our knowing is possible only through instruments. Number two, all instruments are limited by nature. Since instrument is limited by nature, the knowledge that you gain through the instrument also will be limited by nature. The human arrogance may make a person to believe that he is unlimited. He can know everything. That is ignorance. Yeah, that is Mudatma. Yeah, Mudatma. Why? Because a wise one understands. What does he understand? All knowledges are possible only through instruments. Without an instrument, you cannot know anything. For color and form, you need eyes. For sound, you need ears. For sparsha, touch, you need the skin, each and everything. So, for emotions, you need mind. For thinking, you need to gain knowledge, thinking, questioning. The instrument is intellect. The mind cannot think, the intellect cannot feel. The operations are different. All yoga is that which integrates everything. Yoga bhala is, why this yoga gives you bhala? Because yoga alone has the capacity to integrate. Without yoga, all are disconnected. The emotion is going in one direction, the intellect is going in another direction, senses are running in another direction. It's like the chariot, the horses running by themselves. Charioteer has no control. What happens to the jiva inside? Collapses. Yoga bhala. What does yoga do? Yoga integrates. What is integration? It makes sure that all instruments does their respective jobs effectively and understands the limitations of it. That is why when people say, generally people use the word mind for thinking, and people use the word mind for feeling also. People use the word mind for thinking, and people use the word mind for feeling also. Vedanta comes and says, no, feeling is a different entity, thinking is a different entity, and one instrument cannot do both. There is no instrument like that. It is like with the eyes I can see, and with the eyes I can hear also. How can you do that? It is not possible. So all these are unconnected, and yoga integrates all this. That integrated personality has a power. Yoga bhala. That person has a power. And how do you understand that yoga bhala? Achala manasa. The mind that doesn't move. And what happens? Dramatic. Very dramatically he says this. What? Keeping the pranas between the two. Look at that. Only by fixing the prana perfectly in the middle of the two eyebrows. Sir. Yes, something is there. Otherwise, why will Krishna simply say that? You can say dramatics and all, but it is not true. That is your interpretation. You are wrong. Something is there. Otherwise, because Krishna could have said on the forehead, on the roof of the head. Why between eyebrows? Because something is specific there. Say you don't know what is it. Yeah, somebody can say that. For which we say, no. It is a very symbolic state. What is that? The point of concentration does not signify any particular spot in the head. It's a point of concentration. And anything takes the vision, takes the gaze upward. There is a natural devotional bhava. There is a natural devotional bhava. That's why we say you look up to, no? Even English language, you look up to. Look up to means what? You are not looking up like that. Or fixing something here. What does looking up to means? And they say, no, you don't know that, sir. There is one gland here, and that gland is called, I know it's not the gland, and if you do all this, it gets, and that gets activated, and when it gets activated, something happens. You will get a very good migraine, and then you will need and then you continue to practice like that. You need a different kind of a treatment. Yeah. Oh, it's not a fantasy. It is symbolic. See, when something is said as symbolic, don't fantasize it, don't fantasize about it, and start taking it literally. People do that. Why? Because they think it's a shortcut. What? They are saying mind, intellect, shastra, law, to obey this, mind becomes achala, yoga, bhala. Nothing is working. But between, eyebrows are there, I can see. And there is something between the eyebrows also I can see. Follow that. Forget about Aditya Varnam, Achintya Rupam, Tamasa Parastat, Anushasitaram. What is Anushasitaram under? This is much easier. Don't try it out like that. That's not what he is saying. A person who's doing all that comes here and he will be able to do something. What? An attitude that is most conducive for meditation. With that single pointed meditation, he attains Brahman. And what is that Brahman? Param Purusham. Param Purusham. And what is the nature of that Param Purusham? Another adjective. Another adjective. What is another adjective? Divyam. Aditya Varnam. Divyam. All one and the same. And what is Divyam means? Self. Self-effulgent. Self-revealing. While it reveals everything around it, it reveals itself. It reveals itself as it reveals everything around it. That is Divyam. So, the verse. Prayana kale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga bhalena chaiva. Dhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti Divyam. That person who did properly the 9, contemplates on the 9 properly, he will be able to do this. He will be able to do all this at prayana kale. That is why the previous verse he left without completing. This is how you study. Otherwise, if you take this verse out of context, prayana kalin, if you start, it looks like as though you can do something at the time of death alone. And people take that because it suits them so much, no? Because you have the best of both. Win-win, isn't it? While you are living also, you can be very indulgent. At the time of death also, you can just suddenly go like that and start doing, what a wonderful life. Win-win situation, huh? Lose தான். லூஸ்னா இங்கிலீஷ் லூஸ், தமிழ் லூஸ் அது. இல்லையா ராம் சுப்ரமணியம், தமிழ் லூஸ்னா என்னன்னு தெரியும்ல? கரெக்ட். தமிழ் லூஸ். This is Anshu, you know what is Tamil loosu means? Tamil loosu means you will go mad. Loosu means mad. Loose only. You will go more mad and more mad and more mad. That's all. What? He who does all this, look at the beautiful connection. He who does all this and he leaves that verse incomplete. And then he connects it to the next verse, prayana kale. It means what? While you are alive, what you do is very important, for it is what that determines prayana kale. He is making it very clear. And why he is talking about prayana kale? Arjuna kind of gave up. What? In the Janmala Jeevan Muktila is not going to happen. He kind of reconciled to that. So, how to keep him going? Prayana kale, don't worry, it will continue. Beautiful chapter. A distinct thought flow in chapter 8. With this, we conclude verse number 10 and we continue with 11 onwards in the next class. ஏதாவது இருக்கா?
Bharat and Mala.
Mala, what is he saying? I'll come. Bharat. How does one understand at the time of death? Context is death is inevitable and can happen anytime. What is meant here is not the specific time of death. Death is inevitable and that specific time of death is unknowable. The time of death is unknowable. Correct. It can happen anytime. When we say it can happen anytime means the actual time of death is unknowable.
Unknown.
Person may seem all right, he dies. Person may look like he is going to die, gets up and comes back. And yet, what is this prayana kale means? Whenever that unknowable time becomes a reality at that point in time. Prayana kale means that unknowable time, whenever that unknowable time becomes a reality. And while you are going through that, you should be able to do this. That's how you have to understand this. So at the time of death means he is not determined, he is not saying you will exactly know your time of death before. That's not what is meant here. What is meant here is the time of death is unknowable, and whenever it happens, a person who has this yoga bala will be thinking of the Supreme. And since he is thinking of the Supreme, he gets to that. Why? Because in verse number 3, 4, he already said, whatsoever you think of dying, you will get there. So continuing from there. Is it okay, Bharat?
Namaste, Guruji.
Yeah.
So it is I just wanted to relate to the constant thought, because death is inevitable. And it's like I mentioned, it can happen anytime. So obviously what you said, I'm trying to relate to saying that always the constant yoga of is going to help us.
Yes. Yes.
So because we don't know
Yes.
the actual prayana kale.
Yes.
So is that what the understanding should be, right?
Yes, correct. Correct.
So
Because
there is no specific time that you have.
Yes, there is no specific time.
So it is just a mention here that
Yes.
so that they can relate to this entire sequence of.
Exactly. Exactly. Also, another factor that we have to add here is for the yoga bhala, there is no fear of dying. That's what it means. There is no fear of dying. Why there is no fear of dying? The yoga bala gives that strength, because that person knows exactly the next destination. No,
Right.
he's going to he knows exactly what's going to happen. Since he knows exactly what's going to happen, there is no fear of death comes only when I do not know what's going to happen to me.
Right.
Because of yoga bala, there is no fear of death. Therefore, bruvor madhye and all symbolic of that lacking fear of death. The person doesn't fear dying. That's what this bruvor madhye explains. That's another fact. Is it okay, Bharat?
Thank you, Guruji.
Yeah. Freedom seems an illusion. Is this a feasible thought? Freedom is an illusion for the instruments. For instruments can never become free. Why? By nature, instruments are limited, and that which is limited by nature can never become unlimited. Therefore, freedom to the instruments is an illusion. The moment you transcend the instruments, you are free already. It's not an illusion. Again, I repeat, question. Freedom seems an illusion. Yes, freedom is an illusion from the standpoint of the instruments. Why? Because instruments are limited by nature. Since instruments are limited by nature, their freedom also is limited. The freedom of the eyes is Vibgoric colors. அவ்வளவுதான். அதுக்கு முன்னாடி no freedom, அதுக்கு அப்புறம் கிடையாது. Sound, similarly, so everything. But here when we talk about freedom here, the freedom that is transcending the instruments. Correct. Now, Mala. Mala is saying, I can understand that law is unbiased and always works, even though it may appear to come delayed for some. In the peak of Kali Yuga too, will the law or dharma protect, safeguard those dharmic activities, stroke people, stroke process? Mala. Mala is saying, sir, idella velaikkavuma ipo. That's what she is asking. Yeah. Does this work? Law is unbiased and it always works. It has got nothing to do with the yuga. In Satya Yuga, more people will be dharmic. In Kali Yuga, less people will be dharmic. That doesn't mean in Kali Yuga, the law changes. The number of people following the proportion changes. That's what Yuga refers to. Mala, first adu purinjukonu correct. Yuga refers to the proportion of people following it will be less or more. That's all the change here means. It doesn't mean in Kali Yuga, Dharma will get delayed. In Satya Yuga, Dharma will come fast. It's not like that. Why? Because we have seen this already. Different actions has different timelines for fructification. The law of karma, adu puriyano. For dharma, to understand dharma, you need to understand that law. What is that law? Different actions has different timelines for fructification. You put your fingers in the fire, the fruit is immediate. It's not that you put your fingers in the fire today and it takes 6 months for your fingers to get burnt. Whether it is Satya Yuga or Kali Yuga, you put your fingers in the fire, it will burn, it will get burnt immediately. So some actions produce immediate results. Some actions produce results over a period of time. So the law of karma says, what karma will fructify when? Gahana karma no gatihi. It is very difficult to penetrate and understand. Since it is very difficult to penetrate and understand, in chapter 2 he said, Karmanyevadikaraste mapaleshu kadachana. Just do the action. Leave the fructification to me. Just do the action and leave the results to me. When he says leave the results to me means don't bother about it, for there is a law that is governing the fructification and that law will function perfectly. This understanding that we get from chapter 2 makes us to understand all this. Are you able to follow, Mala? Are you able to follow? What is it? Do your action. First action, you have to do it with the right bhava, right attitude, etc. All that is implied there. Having done all that, you need not worry about the result at all. Why you need not worry about the result? You need not worry about the result because there is the law that makes sure that the phala will come to you when it ought to come, not when you want it. That's the difference. Swamiji puts it very simply. Deserve, never desire. Simply deserve, never desire. The deserving by your action. It comes to you. That's a divine law. So, even though it may appear to come delayed for some, your conclusion is wrong. Why your conclusion is wrong? Because you do not know the full facts. To say it is delayed. Why? Because according to you, it should have come immediately. And you are not the deciding factor. You are not the lawmaker, nor do you understand the law to say when it should come. It will come. That is dharma. So in the peak of Kali Yuga too, will the law protect? Whether it is Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga, doesn't matter. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. It is not in Satya Yuga, Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. In Kali Yuga, Adharmo rakshati rakshitaha. It doesn't come like that. Whether it is Satya Yuga or Kali Yuga, the law remains the same. Is it okay, Mala? Different actions have different timelines. That you should understand. Then all this becomes clear.
So just one question, sir.
Yes.
Somewhere Krishna, I don't know whether in Gita or some scripture, I can't remember. Somewhere he says when the ladies do the adharma, the entire Vamsa Kulanasham or something he says. And the way I understand is in Kali Yuga, that's how it's going to happen or something like that. Maybe he says about the importance of ladies following the dharma more than others. So under context maybe Kali Yuga maybe people don't follow.
Wait, wait பண்ணுங்க. Don't assume too many things and ask a question without any proper references. It has got nothing to do with man following dharma or women following dharma. All human beings got to follow dharma. It is not that a woman has to follow more, man has to. First of all, that is a wrong understanding. Second is, anybody violates dharma, they pay the price. Individually, if a particular human being, be it man or woman, doesn't make any difference. Be it any person, if they violate dharma, they will reap the consequences. It has got nothing to do with man or woman and all that. Second is, whenever these kind of values are spoken, you have to understand it in the context. You can't just rip it off context and understand it individually. Just as, that's why even today I educated on how we should read a verse properly. Prayana kale manasa chalena verse, if you take it out of context, you can conclude by saying all that you have to do is what? At the time of death, fix the gaze between the two eyebrows, you will attain param purusham divyam. Is Krishna saying that? Krishna is not saying that, because what he is saying before and what he is saying after. Therefore, where you have heard all this, if you bring the proper context and all that, we will be able to say that. Otherwise, to make a generalized statement and say that Krishna is saying women should practice dharma more than man, or man should practice dharma more than women. Krishna is not worried about gender politics. He is not worried about the man-woman thing. He is worried about dharma, whether it is man or women. He is worried about only dharma. It has got nothing to do with gender thing here. Other than local politics, that is, we have different people to worry about that, to talk about that. Krishna is not talking about that. Is it okay, Mala? Yeah. Chandralekha. If you are unconscious at that time, how will you remember? Correct. Most of the time, death happens unconsciously. For the person of yoga bala, death doesn't happen unconsciously. He remembers. That person, he means he or she, whoever it is. That is the manasa chalena yoga balena. The yoga bala and achala manas has a different flavor, has a different quality. What is the different flavor quality? Death doesn't happen in fear. See, you become unconscious. When you are frightened, you become numb, you become unconscious. Here, this person is not frightened. This person is not worried about it. Since he is not worried about it, since he is not frightened about it, that person will be able to remember. So here we are talking about a person who has done the proper practices in his lifetime. In one's lifetime, if the person has done these practices properly, that person will be able to be conscious, and that person will go to Param Purusham. So he's talking about the person who has practiced it, not for everybody. For those who have not practiced it, you are right. It happens unconsciously. In the ICU, he doesn't even know what is happening. Somebody has to decide to pull the plug out. We are not talking about that state. We are talking about a person where it is done consciously. A person has the courage to give up the prana consciously. That's what he dramatically says. Bruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak. You follow, ma?
Sir, no, what I want to know is that all your life you have been practicing, you have been thinking about this, but
Yes.
due to some physical ailment, you become
Yes.
Unconscious, you go in a coma or something.
Yes.
At
Yes.
that time you will not, but that you had practiced it before, does it help you? Even at that time,
Exactly.
physically you are not able to.
Exactly.
That's what I want.
Exactly. Even if you are in a coma state, the subtle body is bala. Yoga bala is not to the physical body. The yoga bala is to the subtle body. The physical body is in coma. The subtle body is not in coma. The yoga bala that brings manasa chalena remembers and it goes. It is not dependent on the strength of the physical body. It is dependent on the strength of the subtle body. What is the clue here? Manasa chalena. This manas has become achala, meaning the subtle body has become strong. Most of the time, the physical body will become weak. We are not talking about the weakness of the physical body. Is it okay, ma?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
In verse 10, I want to understand
Hmm.
the last. He reaches the supreme resplendent being.
Yes.
So, in this context, does it mean enlightenment, or is the individual going to a better environment to pursue the spiritual journey?
Yes. He reaches the supreme resplendent being in verse number 10. Does it refer to enlightenment or does it refer to moving into the conducive environment for the next Janma? Since he is talking about Prayana Kale at the time of death and all, it is a direct reference to a conducive environment which will make you remember Brahman and attain Brahman. What in the initial, when we did the introduction to the 8th chapter, what we spoke about as Krama Mukti. It's a Krama Mukti. Krama Mukti means liberation in stages. Liberation in stages means liberation happens once and for all. It is not liberation in stages. What is meant by liberation in stages means the effort will not go waste and you don't have to start all over. It will, where you left, you will continue from that. So the very Prayana Kale refers to liberation in stages. Therefore, here we will say Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam means he reaches the supreme resplendent being. Here is a reference to moving into the conducive environment, remembering Brahman and continuing. Why? Because in Vedanta, Mukti is always a Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti means liberation while alive. While alive. Therefore, here it's not about at the time of death you attain. If you take that, it talks about Videha Mukti. It's not talking about Videha Mukti. It's the entire Vedantic thought is about Jivan Mukti. Then what is this Prayana Kale means? You move on to the conducive environment and you continue from where you left. Imagine you do PhD, research and die. Next Janma, you start from where you left. You don't have to start all over from 2 in the mind, 2 in the fingers. You don't have to say A, B, C, D. In everything else, you have to start from the scratch again and again and again. Here, you don't have to start from scratch again and again and again. Where you left, you continue. Are you okay? Yeah. Last thing we conclude. Ram Subramaniam has become Puneet's advocate. So, Ram Subramaniam is asking question on behalf of Puneet. Puneet, I know you are here.
Hariam Swamini.
Yeah.
I think so. What happened maybe a couple of classes ago, I would have posted, and by the time was over, but I posted directly to Sir's message, and my bad actually. Okay. But I think so these have already been answered. One was the timing. Yes. And like you beautifully answered right now, and even the yoga part. But nowadays, if you don't mind, one question is there. Nowadays, we talk a lot about affirmations.
Yes.
You have to manifest something in your mind first to make it,
Yes.
and then we see, and then Guruji talks about, you have to deserve rather than you desire. So I always feel the affirmations, everybody say, get up in the morning, start, see if someone has to lose weight, start seeing yourself as a person who's already lost, start seeing yourself running a marathon.
Yes, yes.
So then there's a difference between this correlation of desire versus deserve. So then all of this, what's being taught today, does it really make sense, or is it linked or no?
Yeah, there is a link, Punit. See, what people call as visualizations today, in Vedanta, we call it as a goal. Before you start an action, you need to have a goal. Weight loss is now you need to have the weight loss as a goal. So when you say weight loss as a goal, you visualize that. What they call as affirmations. Every generation comes up with new terminology, sir. That's all it is. The formula is the same. Are you able to follow? What is the formula? In order to do an action, you need a goal. Why? Because what you can call as affirmation or visualization or a goal gives direction to action. It is the visualizations that gives direction to action. And those directions itself will not get you that. Sorry, those visualization alone will not get you that. What will get you there is the visualization followed by the necessary action. So visualization is 1%, 99% is the action. But it is right. You have to have affirmation. Affirmation means correct. Creative visualization also, you can say, people come up with terminologies. Yeah. All doesn't take the fundamental away. It's not that they are saying anything different. They are rewording it differently, rephrasing it differently. That's all. In Vedanta, we call it as a goal. So if you want to have weight loss, you need to have a goal of weight loss. When you say weight loss is a goal, it means what? So that you want to be fit. Fit means a specific thing like wanting to run a marathon. Are you able to follow? Okay, you have a goal like what? Marathon. I want to run marathon. You have a goal like that. And if you have a goal like running a marathon, and I don't fit the mirror at all. Yeah. I want to run marathon and I stand in front of the mirror. I am bigger than the mirror. It means what? I need to lose. I have to lose weight. So you have to visualize that first, not fantasize that. There is a difference. In visualization, you should not make the mistake of fantasizing. Fantasizing means, how good if I lose? What if I do? I can quickly lose. Shortcuts. And somebody will come and say, you need not worry about anything. Take one pill in the morning every day. That is enough. What an easy way to lose. What an easy way to lose weight. Knowledge comes and tells you that the proper action is important to reach your visualization. Visualization means goal. And if you do the proper action, you deserve it. So deserve, never desire is still the law only. Are you able to follow? If you do the proper action, you will deserve it. What is deserving? You will run a marathon. You will run a marathon. And to run the marathon, you need to deserve it. And how do you deserve it? By doing the right action. And what is doing the right action? Bit by bit by bit, you have to exercise and lose. And you need to follow a strict, disciplined regime, etc. All that if you do, temptations will come. Temptations will come. And once in a while, you have a cheating day also. Yeah, they have a cheating day, no? Yeah. Which is perfectly correct. You need to have a cheating day also. By doing all these practices put together, you will get where you want to reach. Since you are doing that, You are deserving to get there. So what Swamiji says is correct. Deserve, never desire. And how do you deserve anything? By fixing the goal and doing the action that takes me there. And doing the action means, remember, what to do, what not to do. What is right action? Right action means a knowledge of what to do, what not to do. That is right action. Knowledge of what I should do, knowledge of what I should not do, and having the courage and conviction to do that which I ought to do, and having the capacity to say no to that which I ought not to do. All this put together in one word, sorry, two words, called right action. If you do this, it's a natural process that you will deserve it. So deserving is so, deserving becomes a logical culmination. Deserving is so much to you that even gods can't take it away from you. Even if God wants to take it away, even gods cannot take it away from you. Why? Because you already deserve it. And what is deserving? You fix the goal and you did the right action. What is meant by doing the right action? The knowledge of what to do, what not to do. Having the courage to do what to do, however painful it is, however unimpressive it is, having the courage to do that. And howsoever tempting it is, saying no to the distractions. What to say yes and what to say no is right action. And you do the right action you deserve. And getting the fruit is a natural process. So Krishna says, it's not that I am giving you the fruit. Nobody can take the fruit away from you because you deserve it. Are you able to follow? It's not that I am giving you the fruit. You deserve it. You deserve it and nobody can take it away from you. So when he says, I am the karma pala data, I give you the result, he is only simply stating a law. What is the law? Deserve, never desire. He is stating the law in a very dramatic, in a very poetic way. You follow? Deserve, never desire is the karma pala data. So when he says, I make sure that you will get it, means what? The law will function. The law will function that it cannot be taken away from you. But environment is not conducive, sir. This person is not supporting, that person is not supporting, body is not supporting, this pain I am having, that pain I am having, government is not supporting. Nothing will stop because you have earned it already. You have earned it already. You deserve it. Is it okay, Punit? Did I help you in any way? Yeah. With this, we conclude for today and we continue from verse number 11 onwards in the next session.